here we're in Mitchell County, and again, Mitchell County is named from Mount Mitchell, which is the highest elevations east of the Mississippi River. Still kind of in the Little Switzerland area. You can see just how hard they got nailed. We've got stumps over here and debris piles. We've got people that have been working together to clear stuff. This is 10 weeks later. But I mean, nobody's sitting there, you know, being lazy or something for 8-9 weeks and just, oh, I'll get to the debris piles when I feel like it. Oh, I'll get that tree off the roof when I feel like it.
Nah, none of that.
No, it's just so much to be done. But again, we're like literally passing by and seeing people working together.
Yeah.
Getting it done, even in today's weather. And yeah, you still get some beautiful views out this way. And yeah, the fact is not every house was destroyed. You still got some people who are doing fine. They're doing absolutely fine. As far as their house wasn't destroyed. But are they doing fine? You know, mentally with everything going on? Or, you know, do they still have a job?
There's that.
Did they lose somebody? Like, there's, again, you don't know anybody's story really. Everybody has a story.
That is true. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this road brings us out to.
Oh yeah, sometimes it really is exploring. Mitchell County is a small county too. It's one that tends to get overlooked in the grand scheme. Spruce Pine is in Mitchell County. The area extends out kind of to Avery and McDowell and such as well. Uniatsy. Whichever one is the very tallest.
Makes sense.
That box blowing around. We got, you know, the wind's picking up here. We're on top of the mountain, so it's not surprising.
Yeah. This is a quaint little area.
It's peaceful. Yeah, that's what people really like out here.
Oh, damn.
It's quiet, it's simple, and you get back in touch with nature in a lot of cases, or, you know, just focusing on simpler values, I guess.
Yeah,
When's the last time we passed a McDonald's?
that's true.
Honestly, we've hardly passed any businesses except for the inns
Yeah.
and the tourism. So when you say that the tourism industry is what's, you know, really important out here, they've got contractor businesses as well. And thank God we've got so many general contractors out here with every type you can think of. There are always homes being built across WNC and the surrounding areas. So, alrighty.
So where?
Grassy Creek. We have come where we needed to come.
Oh, sweet.
I know this area. We did bypass the Skyline Village Inn and the turnoff for the Blue Ridge Parkway, which would be to the right, a little south of us. We're going to be heading up north here. Signs for free food. There was an RV that was hanging out around here that I saw for weeks that was handing out free clothes. Just, you know, please pull over and let me give you something that you need. We've got businesses that are coming back open. Subway over there is back open. This clothing store over here.
Hardware store.
Huge for this area. To be able
Taco Bell, Burger King, of course ABC.
They've got businesses that are just now coming back. This is just south of Spruce Pine. This is Spruce Pine Commons up here. We'll pass by the town hall here in a minute. So this basically now we're in Spruce Pine. So this, like I have mentioned, this town actually supports the entire planet. There are rare minerals, materials that are mined in southern Appalachia, not underneath the Lake Lure, but here in Spruce Pine. They have some of the purest quartz and silica in the world, and that is what is used in over 80% of computer processing chips. Comes from here. You cannot manufacture quartz,
Right.
silica. It has to be mined. Those plants, we won't pass by them, but they are in Alta Pass, which is just southeast of Spruce Pine, and they were along the Catawba or the Tow River, whichever one it is out here. And when that river flooded, it flooded massively, and it destroyed plants. Like, even if people were able to get out, onto the roads, they couldn't go to work, and let alone they couldn't manufacture the chips.
Right.
So it was a matter of critical importance for the nation and the world's infrastructure that they were able to clear enough of the roads, all the way from Spartanburg or Spruce Pine or Asheville to reach out here, just to be able to get trucks in and out, just to be able to repair those plants, to get them back operational, which they're now operational again. To rebuild that much in that short span of time is absolutely insane. Again, incredible undertakings that have happened. Spruce Pine is famous for a few other things. Moonshine is one of them, and I mentioned that with, they used to run the moonshine down those same roads 100 years ago, down that grassy mountain. And you can imagine, in some cases they were running from the cops. Down those steep, narrow, windy roads, they had to know them real, real well. The moonshine is still a thing to this day. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, meth as well, and I'm not just saying here, I'm saying that's kind of an issue across WNC in general.
Yeah.
I once heard Rutherford County described as the mecca of meth.
It doesn't surprise me.
There's a chemistry student who told me that.
Oh, wow.
I guess, in some cases, you might argue that meth is the new moonshine.
I mean,
As far as, people who manufacture it and sell and distribute.
yeah.
A lot of times that's tied to lack of income opportunities, at least at first. Once you get deep into that, especially when you rack up criminal charges and a history and such, hard to get out.
Yeah.
As people really, especially when you're young, they don't consider as... You ain't gonna be able to get out easily or safely, if at all. But this is, whatever.
Yep.
Now I'm starting to ramble, but here we are on, this is Highway 19E. Alta Pass Road is closed. I think
Whoa.
Alta Pass Road was open last time I was through here. Is that
That
how
was-
long I took to over here?
So that was crazy. That sign back there, it looked fine, but in my camera, it was all glitching out.
That's interesting. That's weird.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I think you get some weird energy around here with all the quartz in the ground, but I'll let a girl from Asheville with crystals explain that one to me. She'll know what's going on.
Yeah.
Somebody call Moonflower. So, yeah, the first time I came here to Spruce Pine to make a supply drop, the military was actually coming in behind me. And that 226 highway wasn't even open. I had to go all the way from Spartanburg up I-26 to Asheville to, Mars Hill. 19E across our Madison and Yancey counties through Burnsville all the way to get here to Spruce Pine. I had to go all the long way around because that was just the only way you could get up here.
Right.
At the time, and for weeks afterwards, I don't think that there was any, power in most areas. They were still working on getting those power lines back up, and that's actually, remember coming out after making the supply run, and there were power lines that had been picked up off the ground that I had driven over on my way in. I had driven through Burnsville, and they were picking up a water tower that had fallen on the ground. And by the time I came back through on my way back out, I didn't see them picking up the water tower anymore. It's like they finished the work and moved on to the next. And at some point, we're going to cross into Avery County. Avery County took some of the absolute worst damage from the storm. And here along 19E, and that's assuming that we are even able to pass all the way through north to Cranberry and Elk Park, which there have been times I've been turned around on this road because of the ongoing construction. But every single week has gotten better. Every single week. And it's still going to be rough. And this area that we're going to come up to here soon is going to be real rough. When we get up north, 19E runs along the Tow River. And the Tow River flooded over 30 feet.
Good God.
I've seen the videos of the flooding in this area when it happened. We'll go through an area that's called Minneapolis that is over 3,500 feet. Plumtree, where there have been displaced resident sheltering, and there have been resources coming in as we could get them in, all the way up to Cranberry. And then Elk Park. We'll go through there into Watauga County. We're not going to head up to Boone. I've taken that route to Boone plenty of times. This 105 is the safer route that goes through like Fosco, past Grandfather Mountain, past Sugar Mountain. And those areas are trying to come back. They're very much trying to come back for tourism, for the ski season especially. Sugar Mountain is opening up for the ski season. Grandfather Mountain is open. I don't know if every trail, everything is open, but they do want people to come in. Sometimes when the ice and the winter weather comes in, those roads get real rough again.
Oh, yeah.
Now, 105 is the one that actually, no, not 105, but 97, I think, is the one that actually runs along the Elk River that feeds into the Tow River. And that's the one I'm planning to take, as long as it's going to be accessible when we get up there. Now we're coming up into Avery County. Yeah, so we still got the wind gusts as we're seeing here, but I don't believe this is 60-mile-an-hour wind gust. Doesn't feel that strong. I think what we're dealing with here is more like in the 30s.
Yeah.
Dying down today. So where timing really matters.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, like I keep saying, the wind will bring more branches. Like, well, that's a small branch, you know, we've mostly seen small branches down, but there was a lot that was just shaken loose as a result of the hurricane, but didn't come all the way down quite yet. And so there's a lot of, dangling swords of Damocles over people's heads, and people are, asking for help. Hey, can I get a volunteer here to help me cut down this tree branch, or get this tree that is about to fall on the house? It survived the storm. Don't let us lose a house now. Avery County was real hard to hit, or real hard to reach. From the beginning, it took at least 6 weeks before they cleared the roads enough that I could get up to Newland and Minneapolis.
Wow.
And pretty soon thereafter, I saw, in all the Facebook groups, WNC relief efforts, and the local groups. Sabelco here, by the way, they're the ones that do the boards. So, they're one of the ones. And there was a woman named Ashley Cook who was working with the Minneapolis churches, trying to get supplies in. And she's been absolutely incredible in organizing efforts for her community, which has been so hard hit and so overlooked. We got some absolute heroes that have pulled together for the communities. We've also got Roy Arnett, who is a pastor who opened up the Loving Hands Hub at an old gas station, Quick Jack's, just north of Newland. I've dropped supplies there before, but mostly I've been dropping supplies up to the churches in Minneapolis.
That's incredible.
Here recently, it's been about 5 or 6 trips. Maybe I forget how many trips it's been up. of the tree farms in Newland, which is Cartner Tree Farms, actually provided the Christmas tree for the White House this year.
Oh, wow.
And as luck had it, because I got turned around at 19E and I had to find another way to come through, I actually passed by the Cartner Tree Farm as they were providing the tree to the White House in D.C. So, cheers to them. That's absolutely wonderful that they got that opportunity. And all the locals I saw said they deserve it, that this is a really good family, you know, that they really deserve that opportunity.
Hell yeah.
They've had to repair the roads enough just to get logging trucks up here. We will, I'm sure, pass by some trucks that are pulling some Christmas trees, and I've passed by them even before the storm on these narrow mountain roads. It's a little scary, but they're good drivers, so thank goodness for that. And there were some tree farms that unfortunately got really wiped out. It takes, I think, 15 years to grow a Christmas tree to full, like, selling. I mean, we buy them in all different sizes, but, you know, when they lose a whole stock of trees, they won't just have new ones pop up next year that are 10, 15 feet.
Right.
It will take a lot of time. So the farmers are really, really going to need assistance in the long haul. But we got to protect and support our local farmers. If they lose those farms and are forced to sell because they just cannot make ends meet otherwise, the ones that usually end up buying them up are the developers who, in a lot of cases, they build those really awful subdivisions. For instance, D.R. Horton, who got successfully sued by Anderson County, South Carolina, class action lawsuit over how badly the homes were constructed. Their excuse was that, oh, this is just the industry standard nowadays, that we just build them badly. And the judge said that did not fly because they are the largest home builder in the United States. They set the industry standard. That did not fly.
Oh, that's funny.
But they are the biggest home builder in the United States. They do build a lot of those supply, or there's suburban subdivisions that pop up like mushrooms overnight. They're not well constructed, and in many cases they are in floodplains and they're prone to flooding, because that used to be farmland. Because a few years ago, when the waters would come through, it would soak into the soil, it would enrich it and grow crops. You replaced it with concrete that the water cannot soak into, it floods.
Yep.
So, the other thing, and we really see this in Spartanburg County, and it has been awful in the last few years, is that they buy up the farms because they're already cleared, and it is very convenient to put large industrial plants on, like distribution centers especially. Not even so much manufacturing, but supply chain and logistics. In almost every case. Those are back-breaking, soul-crushing jobs. That's not the future you want to provide to your future generations.
No.
It's not what this community wants, to see their farms bulldozed and replaced with giant concrete monstrosities. It's not exactly cultural.
No.
And, you know, I highly encourage anybody to come and drive through Spartanburg County. Drive through Moore, Boiling Springs, Woodruff, some parts of Spartanburg. And you're going to see, how much of it has been torn up and replaced with these industrials. They'll build it and then ask a corporation to come in and rent it from them. They're not even guaranteeing jobs. They're just guaranteeing blight. So, every community, every county has got to decide how they're going to move forward. I can't tell anybody, what to do with their own family, farm, property, whatever. But I would encourage anybody to come to Spartanburg County and see what, that looks like before. But there have been realtors that have tried to move in, including here in Avery County, and buy up disaster properties. And there is a strong push among the locals to prevent and fight against that. What you're seeing right here is a location where the Army did come in, the Army Corps, and they moved that river back in place. So when you see that smooth bed that we saw right there next to that river, that's because they had to smooth that out with the stuff when they put the river back. And that's how far it shifted, like 12, 15 feet probably. That's what took out the roadside. You can actually kind of see here where they may have, I don't think right here is where the crumble to the edge, but just wait till we come up a little bit. This is the Tow River here, named for Estetow, which is a Native American, I forget exactly which tribe, and I forget exactly what the word means. thought that the storm would go further east.
Yeah.
They knew that there was going to be flooding on the French Broad and Swannanoa rivers, and they said it was, possibly going to compare to the floods of 1917 in Asheville.
Uh-huh.
But that was because if the storm had taken the expected path and had mainly hit further west, then it was still going to flood the river basins in Tennessee. And, that was still going to come down through the Pigeon to the French Broad, Swannanoa, Broad rivers. And that's what they were expecting. They weren't expecting it to take as much as they did. And that's why these areas got hit so massively. And then that combined with the amount of rain that they took before the storm, everybody, that is the one factor in every single person's story. That's what everybody wants you to know. That's what they'll tell you, is that it was
Days of rain beforehand.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in some cases, some areas, they couldn't evacuate safely anyway. And then overnight, in the middle of the night, I didn't know that the vortex was going to hit us until it was a few hours before it hit us.
Yeah.
You can imagine how pitch black these places are in the middle of the night, even at the best of times. And with that type of weather, things have already come down. No, there was no way to safely evacuate, and it might have been more dangerous for people to try to evacuate than in some areas than what actually happened. This has been a common sight. This is actually the Spear Country Store, I think, over here, if I'm not mistaken, and they have been operating as a supply and relief hub. Thank you, guys. God, there was one time up here on 19E, same highway, where I was sitting. I had somebody else in the vehicle with me, another volunteer, and we were waiting for the chance to go. We were actually waiting for probably 15-20 minutes before we were able to pull forward, because they were moving heavy equipment into an area where it's only one lane.
Yeah.
So they had to have it blocked off for a while. While we're sitting there, an SUV comes up behind me going so friggin' fast. They almost slammed into the back of my vehicle. They had to swerve around. It is a miracle that they didn't hit the flagger or anybody else. And of course, they still got to back up and get around me, behind me and stuff, and they make themselves look very stupid. But also just how incredibly dangerous that was. It almost killed several volunteers or workers because you just felt like driving way too fast through an obvious disaster zone where the roads are closed to local traffic only.
Shit is frustrating.
The driving habits that we've seen have been really, really bad in some cases. The way that people are just flying through areas, sometimes on their phones, sometimes trying to, FaceTime or record and drive at the same time, or whatever they're doing. Just not being careful. Some people may be not used to these mountain roads, not understanding, and especially on I-26, you cannot drive I-26 the way you drive I-85. North Carolina, please listen to me. North Carolina, you cannot drive I-26 the way you drive I-85.
No.
You can't do, not even you.
No.
Not even you. My dear listener, watcher, audience, like and subscribe to the channel.
Yes.
This place is like a ghost town. High water vehicles and the Jeeps have been very useful to help ford streams, off-road, get through really bad roads, or maybe even get resources to neighbors who are having a hard time getting in and out of their own properties. A lot of driveways, a lot of bridges that got taken out, and as we've been driving, we can still see some of those that they haven't gotten a new bridge in yet. You got people who are having to park in their front yard and walk back and forth with groceries, whatever they've got. And for a lot of these older folks, that's a lot.
Yeah.
There is a group called Bridges for Avery that has been coming in and installing bridges for people in need. Absolutely wonderful work that they've been doing. This is where these groups, they need funding, they need financial donations. they know how to get the materials. A lot of these were contractor companies before everything happened. Some of those contractors are setting up 501c3 nonprofits now, like Ridgeline Heating and Cooling over in Lake Lure, in order to keep helping out for the long haul. But they have the accounts set up, they have the, connections, they can get the building materials, they have the manpower. They just need to be able to afford it. This area is, you're getting along the river, it's bad. The tree farms, some of these got absolutely nailed. Might be more than tree farms too. You might have other farms out here that I'm not even.
Man.
Unfortunately, some of these, the waters got high enough to completely submerge houses, and it was strong enough to pick some up off of their foundations and move them. There were 2 sisters who floated to Tennessee on a mattress. Elderly sisters. They were like in their 70s or 80s.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even fathom how terrifying that would be.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be like a whole new level of trauma that, like, I wouldn't even want to try to imagine.
The Tow River flows towards Tennessee into the Nolichucky River. That flows into the Pigeon, which flows back down into western North Carolina through Haywood County.
Uh-huh.
And that far west, they did not take the brunt of the storm itself, but the flooding that came back down through those rivers, that's what took out, neighborhood in downtown Canton, for instance. And that came straight along that river, which runs along I-40 and through Candler into Asheville, and becomes the French Broad River. And that's the one that goes around the Biltmore Estate, Biltmore Village, in the River Arts District, which that was catastrophic. And I think Rad probably still is. The rebuilding there will take many years. Unfortunately, that's some of the worst I've seen.
That's, what I've been hearing.
It's taking a lot of effort and equipment and time to clear these debris fields. You can't even see from this distance, but some of those debris fields over 20 feet high. That's how high the river's got. I think we've already passed by areas, or we will pass by areas where you can see sheet metal wrapped around trees 20 feet high.
Damn.
Somebody out here found a car in a tree. And it's unthinkable how it got that high. Up here in the mountains, up here in these elevations, I've heard people have apparently said from not here that, it's all a lie because the mountains don't flood. This is all, I wish I could say this is all a lie. I would be nice to be able to say, this is all just made up. This didn't happen. And I'm looking at right now. It did. If I was sitting on the other side of the phone screen, I could sit here and pretend that isn't real. They will not have that cleaned up next week.
No.
Not for all the money in the world. It did happen.
Yeah.
It's real. We're looking at it now. At Powder Mill Baptist Church over there, they've been helping to coordinate donations as well. That's one that's been, so I'm pointing out all these local churches and businesses as we come up, because that's who's been doing it.
Yep.
The volunteers, the social media, it does create a bit of an echo chamber, and so people know about the most just clear this up. As the counties have been restoring infrastructure and, you know, able to just stabilize, they can eventually move into debris pickup, and that is happening, even up here, even down in Spartanburg, even everywhere. Which is why this is still better than it was, you know, a month or two ago.
Right.
As we get things cleared. Cranberry's still got a lot of debris, I think. But yeah, you know, we tackle one problem and then something else takes its place. None of us had a guidebook or instruction manual how to handle a disaster, let alone how to handle a hurricane in the mountains. I've never heard of a hurricane like this hitting mountains like this before.
No.
So we didn't know what to expect, and we still are taking this day by day. The most important thing to do if you want to know what's really going on is to always listen to the locals, and not even the people who showed up from afar to help out for a few days or longer, but the people who live here.
Right.
Who have lived here, who already knew what was going on. And while I am on my soapbox, a lot of people have claimed to have been here since day one. Usually when they are arguing with you about something and claiming they know this, that, and the other, I've been on the ground since day one helping out. You got here on day one. How?
Right.
How?
Yeah.
How did you know where to go? We didn't know where to go. How did you know these people needed help? They couldn't even reach us. They couldn't reach their family members. We weren't overrun with out-of-town volunteers until they were able to reach Asheville from Spartanburg. Because the only way to get up there was to reach Asheville from Spartanburg.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they all came to Asheville, and Asheville was just overwhelmed. Like, you know, the people showed up thinking that there would be somebody to direct them, like, hey, we need your help over here to do this, that, and the other. That's not anybody's job.
No.
The community doesn't have a person assigned to, you know, the disaster marshal. So, you know, people were recovering and just trying to figure out what the hell just happened. People show up. There's no clear boundary sometimes between disaster tourism versus misguided attempts to help.
Yeah. That is true.
I heard, oh man, there were people who made it up here to Avery County in some areas, driving around and honestly bothering and harassing the locals, filming for TikTok. People felt like their privacy was being violated, like people were being extremely disrespectful in the worst moments of their lives. And there was a sign, or the photo that became viral because there was a sign somebody put up somewhere that said, "We have had enough disaster tourism. Make yourselves useful or make yourself scarce."
Good.
They were, you know, obviously coming into very dangerous situations, very dangerous roads that they had no business being on. Obviously not familiar with the area, especially the ones who were walking around Chimney Rock, making all kinds of wild claims. I mean, people, and just want to know as well, locals have seen people lying into their phone screens. Just, they'll be standing 10 feet away from a FEMA disaster site saying there's nobody around to help, there's no assistance whatsoever, because which story is going to resonate more with their TikTok fans? Which one is going to get more shares? Which one do you care about more? There is help here. I'm seeing it because we got crews right here who are cleaning up the power lines right now that I just passed by. There is assistance here. It's not much. It's not enough. We still got homes that need to be rebuilt. We still got people who need jobs again.
Yeah.
Cars. You know, something better than a camper to sleep in. There's so much that's needed, but at the same time, it's not true to say there is no assistance. It's not true to say that these people have been completely abandoned or, you know, left to rot by their country, their government, and especially us as a community. We don't leave our people behind like that. We don't.
No.
Nobody nobody sat around waiting for Dr. Phil or Donald Trump or any celebrity or even the out-of-state volunteers to show up. We didn't sit around and wait.
No.
But we did need the roads cleared in most cases before we could reach people outside of our own street.
Yeah.
I thank God for the people who did that. I am so, so grateful for all the people who came through, workers and volunteers alike, to get us stabilized, cleared up, even on day one. But a lot of people who say that they're here on day one, they can't tell you what they actually did or how they got to where they claim they got to, and especially the ones who were all over the place. Day one. You're in Batcave, and you were in Black Mountain, and wait, you were also in Spruce Pine? Wait, but you were also in Burnsville? How'd you go all these places at once when nobody else could?
Right.
Do you have a flying broom? Do you teleport? Do you fly? Someone will claim that you were in helicopters or something. What gets me the most also is the ones who say they were here on day one, but they don't know where Spartanburg is. And the ones especially that hound me because, oh, well, your profile says you live in South Carolina, so what the hell do you know? Man, if you came through on day one, you couldn't have accessed except through Spartanburg, and that's the only place you could have gotten gas and food that would have given you enough gas to get up the mountains.
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't know where I'm at, but you were there on day one? Oh, yeah. No, the grifters have been insane. The scammers have been all over the place, and, you know, do you see how awful the situation is? They're taking advantage of people in, again, the worst moments of their lives. Whether it's the emotions of dealing with everything that happened, or the trauma, or just the stress, you don't tend to think as clearly. This is everybody. This is human nature. It's not something to be ashamed or embarrassed about. It's all of us, but that's what people are taking advantage of.
Yeah.
And they'll make some of the wildest claims. They'll say that they found frozen dead babies, or a whole family that froze to death in a tent somewhere. That claim has been repeated over and over and over. It was 15 dead babies in Swananoa. Then it was only a few. Then it was 1 dead over in Relief. Oh no, now it's 3 dead in a tent in Old Fort. It's all a lie. I'm sorry, but it is a lie. And any search and rescue person who walks around filming for TikTok and claiming that they found bodies that morning, but you're not dealing with the police, you're not dealing with the medical examiner, you're not even waiting until the family has been notified and the remains have been identified before, you know, somebody tells the family, before you publish this information. They're not real. Right. If they are, then they're incredibly unprofessional.
Yeah.
And it's sad because we have had a real need, unfortunately, for search and recovery, because there are many people who have not been recovered.
Is that ice?
Yes, it is. Those are icicles. We are at 37, no, it's 37 degrees right now.
Oh, shit.
But as solid as those icicles are, I guess that's why it's taken a while for all that to melt. You see some water coming down. It's melting, but
oh, there's a bunch of
icicles.
houses up there that are just like completely destroyed.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
This is Minneapolis. This town has become near and dear to my heart. Originally, I wasn't even able to come up this way to access. I had to go all the way around. At the Dollar General that we passed, you would turn right onto 194, which is 3 Mile Highway, and take that, you know, also 1 lane and crumbling in some areas, to Linville Falls and Crossnorm, back to 221, past the section that's closed. And you come up that way through Newland, and it takes you all the way up to Cranberry and Elk Park, and then you can come down south here to Minneapolis. We are at over 3,500 feet.
Wow.
As of a couple weeks ago, we still had haulers that were so far back and the damage was so bad out there that they were still struggling to get heavy equipment in to get the power back.
See, that's what I was thinking. I had a feeling there were probably some very like deep hollers that were in like really difficult places to get, or that, you know, were just really hard to access. Because I mean, The whole geography out here is just, it's different. It's wild.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't, small rural mountain towns of North Carolina are not like anything else. Well, hell, and Tennessee, West Virginia, like.
That's another compare it to. Out here, it gets about as remote as you get out in, remote parts of West Virginia.
Yeah.
That's my grandma, my kinfolk rat, so I got my ties to West Virginia. Yeah, this beautiful and very remote area was one of the most cut off with the road closures in the weeks following the storm. I was checking every day, multiple times a day on Google Maps to see the road closures as they updated, as roads got cleared. And the ones that were not cleared for a while, and you're just looking at Google Maps. You don't know what the damage is on one versus another. But overall, this has been one of the most hard-hit areas. We're passing now into the Watauga River Basin, and that brings me to kind of trying to explain what happened with what we call the super flood. And what I'm about to describe is my opinion, but it comes from the travels that I've done. I've put over 5,000 miles on this vehicle since the beginning of the storm. I've crisscrossed across the disaster zone in the worst areas, and I think that I've come up with a pretty good explanation of how a river up here could flood to 40 feet. So when we cross, we take 197 and we cross through Watauga County. We'll come through like Banner Elk and Valle Crucis. That area generally, about 5 river basins come together. Watauga is one of them. The Broad, the French Broad. I want to say the Yadkin, the New River. All of these basins come together. So where we were in Mitchell County, they took some of the highest rainfall totals at over 30 inches. All this area took massive amounts of rain. In Mitchell, of course, and has to run downhill. All that water collected in river basins, running down the mountains. It caused erosion. It caused a few hundred, maybe even a few thousand years of erosion in a few days, and mostly in the last few hours. We got somebody coming up this way. I got most of this road wiped out. As the water corrected in these river basins here, and they started to flood, and they started to push up on the banks, the water pressure increases. The elevation in the slopes create higher pressure as well. We didn't have standing waters out here. The only places I know of that had standing waters were downtowns like Hendersonville, Biltmore Village, maybe even Marshall. But here the water just ran downstream, but it pushed in. As more water is coming down, the pressure increases. Again, it shifts things out of place. Trees come down, mountaintops come down, boulders are exposed in the bedrock, and they come down on houses. And the water keeps coming. And when that storm came through and it dropped so much rain on this area, and it flowed together, the Elk River runs where the 5 river basins come together. And the Elk River is the one that, according to Congress, in their hearing with the FEMA director, Diane Chisholm, they said that river did flood up to 40 feet above its usual levels.
Good God.
People died. Homes were destroyed. People didn't have a chance to get out. Nobody knew it was going to be that bad. And I think by the time the storm was imminent, it was too late. But these forces are so novel to us. This doesn't happen. This just doesn't usually happen. This doesn't ever happen. This has never happened. If this has happened, it happened thousands of years ago. I've been talking to an archaeologist about that, actually. There is a theory that something like this might have happened like 8,000 or 9,000 years ago that was so devastating that it, removed several thousand years worth of soil and exposed the bedrock. That's a theory.
Yeah.
It's not a fact. It's a theory. That is a yard shunt. That is something they used Seriously. Wait a minute. And this is about the area where the Elk River runs into the Tow River.
Yeah, just all the stuff that we've seen today with all the truck convoys and the people working on the roads and everything else. Like, from the looks of it, you know, you'd think that, you know, we're like a couple weeks in afterwards. You wouldn't think that we're all, it's 10 weeks now. But I mean, and that it, you know, another 10 weeks from now, if we were to make that same, well, maybe not necessarily the exact same drive, but, you know, other similar areas, we would probably see stuff very similar. People still just trying to get things like cleaned up and operational and everything else.
I think it's always shocking to us, especially the first time, to come into an area and see how badly it was hit, but then you talk to somebody else and you find out that, you know, it looks so much better than the day after the storm. And what they see is progress and what we see is destruction, and we are seeing the same thing from different perspectives.
Yeah.
And here pretty soon I'm going to get to the point where I have to start actually navigating with my GPS, because I'm less familiar with the routes, but I know where I'm going right now. We're headed, this is again along the Elk River, and I'm going to have to probably slow down here because we do have areas where it should be one lane and doesn't. Got sinkholes and such and erosion that I just don't feel like putting my tires on if I can help it. You see all this rock that they've moved in to probably move that rover back in place, at the very least prevent future erosion. You imagine you got to get some heavy hauler dump trucks with a lot of rocks just to do all that. You got to get some manpower out here to get it all done. We've got over here as well, we've got rocks set up.
Jeez.
None of this can be done quickly or easily. And I feel bad on my end that I can't be involved more with the work that you're doing out here as far as the heavy labor.
Yeah.
I've got my own, you know, chronic issues that I deal with, and so it's easier for me to drive all over the place, and it's less physical exertion, but allows me to still make myself useful.
Yeah.
Everybody has a role to play in this. There is something that each one of us can do here in order to help. Even if it is done from home, even if there's people, you know, there's ways to help you without spending a cent of your money.
So, speaking of which, sharing these videos will definitely is something you can do to help out, because every single penny of revenue from any aspect of YouTube that these videos generate, it is all going to get donated to disaster relief funds. We're going to definitely research and figure out where it would be most needed or best used or allocated or whatever. You know, maybe depending on how it does, hopefully maybe multiple areas. That's the dream, the goal. The more people that we could help, the better. But that is a huge point in these videos, is aside from just you know, letting everybody know what is still going on, what you can do to help, and, you know, getting money out there, more money that is needed to get into the communities to help all these efforts that you're seeing in places like this. I mean, you can see all the trucks over there and just everything going on. I mean, these communities desperately need a lot of help still, and it is going to be an ongoing thing for a long time to come.
That's a distribution site right there in that Denver So
where is this? Fall Creek?
Fall Creek. We're near Beach Mountain.
Okay.
Beach Mountain, we won't pass directly through, but worth mentioning, it's actually the highest incorporated area east of the Mississippi, sitting at over 5,000 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cold up there too.
I'm sure.
However, luckily, I don't think that they had as much damage from the flooding as they did down here in the valley. So here, this is Highway 194, and yeah, it's in a little worse shape than 105, where we've got the road crumbling here on the edge that goes off in. So that's why I keep, veering into like the center of the road, is because it's actually safer unless there's a car coming the other way than
Right.
Risking the edge. Even even if a car doesn't flip and tumble today, it still creates more pressure. It does more damage, more stress in the long run, and we need to preserve the roads as much as we can, the access for the heavy equipment that we need to get in here in order to keep doing this type of heavy work. That is absolutely critical to rebuilding. So the road conditions actually end up being crucial, and safe driving habits also end up being crucial. If I were to...
Oh, that's a little scary.
It is, but unfortunately, I couldn't swerve in oncoming traffic on that one. But if I did hit oncoming traffic and we did go ahead and block this road here with, 4-car pileup, you're pulling away ambulances and EMTs. You are blocking the road that people need to get back and forth. If somebody had a repair scheduled today, heavy equipment they needed to get through, there may not be another road. The other thing I think is when you come from other parts of the country, and especially flatter parts of the country, you may ask, well, how come it's so difficult to access this town or that town? Why don't you get in a different way? There might be a mountain in the way.
Right.
That mountain might not be in good shape to travel up and down.
Yeah.
Ask the Appalachian trail hikers. What
Right.
they're dealing with on the and those are trails that have been cleared and such. Or supposed to be. Not supposed to be on the trails that are not cleared, by the way. It does get dangerous there too.
Absolutely.
Very thankful for the rangers and volunteers who have cleared a lot of areas so that we can access them again, just to go for a walk or walk the dog or something. A lot of people are very, very grateful for all the chainsaw work that's been done out there. That's again, it's even in Coney County, South Carolina, they got absolutely nailed, and it took a while to get things back up and running. Let alone out here, about 300 miles away, probably 200 at least.
I don't know.
I'd have to look at a map. Ooh. Yeah, those are the debris trucks. Be prepared to stop.
We're
they should
prepared.
just have this sign everywhere across WNC right now. Just be prepared to stop.
Right.
You don't know what you're going to come across.
No.
And those cabins up there are actually looking beautiful.
Yeah. They're in good shape.
So, people have asked, where are the homeless? Where did they go? Where are the displaced people? So, you put yourself in their shoes. You just lost your home and got destroyed in a flood. Where the heck do you go? Well, some people went to campgrounds, RV parks, inns, motels, kind of whatever is available. And a lot of these, again, local businesses, some of them are actually letting people stay for free. Or those FEMA housing vouchers are really coming in handy right now.
Yeah, that's another thing. We talked about earlier that I've seen it on the Facebook and TikTok, and I've heard people like in person advising other people to not deal with FEMA, like when it comes to any kind of aid or financial resources or vouchers or anything. Telling people that it's it's a scam, or not necessarily a scam, but that it's going to be taxed and you're going to have to pay it back, and it's just going to end up costing you money and all this stuff, and it's preventing You know, it's like literally scaring people and preventing people from like actually getting the help and resources they need. When, I mean, you can literally go to FEMA's website and there is a page debunking like the myths or a lot of the rumors and misinformation going around right now regarding things of that nature, everything going on with the disaster relief. And that's one of the first things that's mentioned is this is not a loan. This is not something you have to pay back. Like, this is to help you. Like,
so I actually work in corporate finance when I'm not doing stuff like this. And there is a federal law, a set of federal laws, regulations, that you cannot offer financial products, including loans, to somebody without properly informing them of what you would be signing up for. A loan includes interest. It includes repayment terms, a schedule. You're supposed to pay us this amount on these dates. This is your interest amount. These have to be explained to you in advance before they sign you up for a loan, or else it's actually illegal by federal law.
right.
So, if FEMA can't just gotcha on that one, you know.
Yeah, they can't just like take the money back out of your tax return. That's another one I was hearing is, they'll get you on your tax return.
The only reasons why they would do that is if let's say you apply for housing assistance, like rebuilding assistance, but that same work was also covered by your homeowner's insurance. That's considered double dipping. They may possibly ask if you receive the $750 SNAP benefit to show how you spent that money.
Yeah.
Keep your receipts. Show $750 worth of spent on food, gas, home repairs, anything that was essential that you needed during this time.
Yeah.
Hold on to those. Yeah, absolutely. Always hold on to your receipts. But it's not a loan.
No.
It does not come with interest terms. It does not come with collateral. It does not come with a repayment schedule. If it comes with those things, you're not actually dealing with FEMA. That's another thing, is we actually have had scammers who have come in and pretended to be not so much FEMA. There were some at the beginning who actually got their hands on Red Cross t-shirts.
Oh no.
Yeah. And we're coming into Banner Elk now. So they were, pretending to be with Red Cross, and they were stealing supplies. This has happened in other locations where we've had people come in as, volunteers, but then they've ended up hoarding supplies for themselves and get run out of a town and, show up somewhere else possibly. People have been worried about that. So it actually also, in those early days and weeks when that was happening, we also had those rumors coming out that you mentioned earlier of, FEMA is stealing supplies, Red Cross is stealing supplies. Then there's people running around in Red Cross t-shirts who are stealing supplies. Well, the rumors work out in their best interest. The conspiracy theories sometimes actually have an ulterior motive that is really sinister.
Right.
And in this case, those lies let them, try to put the blame on the people that they're stealing from and who are trying to help, while they say they're actually the problem. Trust me instead.
Yeah.
So we had that happening, but then with the people who are trying to say don't go for FEMA assistance, when you're doing that and simultaneously trying to prevent donations and supplies from coming up to the mountains, you are trying to prevent any resources and any supplies at all from getting to the people who need them the most. And in doing that, it seemed like somebody was trying to destabilize the region even further.
Yeah,
what were people going to do without food and water?
Yeah, apparently, there have been reports, I guess, of people threatening FEMA when they're trying to make appointments to come assess damage and figure out what needs to be done in certain places, or they were there to do stuff and were threatened away. I've heard it, both things, in person and phone threats. But yeah, that's just.
Yes, unfortunately. There was, in particular, and I don't think this is the only one, but there Bostic, which is Rutherford County, who was arrested. Now, the National Guard had been out there. Like I said, they had actually been at the Rutherford County Health Department helping with the supplies. And this guy encountered some soldiers at a gas station, and he said something that got their attention enough to report it to law enforcement. Threats against FEMA. The guy supposedly may have claimed that he was with a militia, and the authorities came back later and said that they didn't think that was the case. But yeah, he made threats against FEMA, got him arrested, charged with going armed to the terror of the public, so he was armed at the same time. But it also caused FEMA to actually pull back their inspectors for several days. It caused a lot of inspections to be rescheduled and reconsidered. We are 32 degrees Fahrenheit now, by the way, so I do need to watch for ice.
Yep. I was going to say, I've been seeing a little bit. I mean, not on the road, but on the sides, like on rock and stuff. But yeah, we got some wind and some ice. Oh, there is snow, a little bit of snow down there.
Is this ice?
It looks a little icy.
This, I do believe is ice.
That definitely looks like ice.
We go very slow here.
Yeah, we got snow, a little bit of snow and ice. Oh, my ears are doing weird things.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, hello, snow.
Yeah, though, that hurt so many people because with the inspections being canceled and rescheduled, that's delaying them for days, weeks even, on, you know, finding out if they're going to be able to keep their home or not, or how much money they're going to get back from FEMA, because the FEMA cannot pay out that money until they actually look at your house and look at the damage themselves. So, in the meantime, a lot of people keep pushing on the FEMA thing because they say that they're raising awareness, and I think some people truly might believe that they are raising awareness and maybe even doing a good thing for people. People think that this is a way that they can volunteer and feel important and like they're making a difference from behind a phone screen, but really it also ends up being tied up in a social media addiction and an algorithm that is feeding them the most sensationalized content that contains words like Hurricane Helene or WNC or Swananoa, and is not designed to be accurate. And when people can get attention and even money and resources from people by making exaggerated and false claims, especially where it applies to their own efforts out here, then it just becomes a mess.
Yeah.
The falsehoods do tend to change from week to week. Like I said, the very, very unfortunate dead frozen baby rumors, those keep changing location and the number, but you know, it's still basically the same story over and over, usually being reported, you know, in conjunction with things are so bad out here, please send me money.
Yeah.
And if it's from the volunteers, not from the locals. So then when it gets repeated so much, people really don't even know what to believe anymore. And not everything has been reported in the news like it should be.
No.
There are many, many people who are still missing, and some will never be recovered, but those numbers have not been added to the death total as they should be. They have not been counted and remembered as they should be. The death toll from Helene is much higher than 100.
Oh, yeah, easily. I mean, I know it. I mean, at one point in time, I think it was like, the last time I saw, it was like 208, and that was weeks ago. Weeks, and I mean, it was like within the first like week or two, it was at 208. And I mean, I know it's like way higher than that.
They actually, they took some deaths off of the total, reevaluated and said, oh, actually, they didn't die from Helene, they died from other causes.
What?
There were, this is rough to talk about, but people keep asking about this, so I'm going to talk about it. It's the death toll. There's several reasons I think that it is severely undercounted. And one of them is the bodies that cannot be recovered, have not yet been recovered.
Or the ones names that just can't even be identified.
Unfortunately, there is that as well. And some of them are buried under mud. They never will be. They never will be found. There's also a lot of homeless that lost their lives in the flooding, especially around Asheville and Tunnel Road and Swannanoa.
Oh God, I know.
That's where they congregated. And unfortunately, there were many people who were lost and not found. Some of those people may not have been reported, or they may not have been reported right away, or their family members may not have even known that their last location was Asheville. Because when somebody is really living off the land like that, you lose track of them.
Yeah, it's sad, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if you talk to some like homeless people for a minute and they start telling you their story, and then like all of a sudden it's like you realize their story started like 500 miles away, and you know, they're talking about, you know, family members that, you know, they're looking for them that, you know, may be dead already. You know, it's like even their cognitive abilities at times are like, you know, they've just been through so much. I mean, I don't think people really understand like what homelessness, especially like when it gets to like a chronic state where like people have been homeless for years and have like endured so much, like what it does not just to you physically but like emotionally, mentally, like I think it numbs people, it breaks people. I don't know. I feel really, really, really bad for like everyone who is in that situation and went through this. Like, well, the ones who went through it and the ones that, you know, like you were saying, there's no way to know what happened to them. Like it truly is an undescribable level of heartbreaking.
At the same time, people keep asking, well, where are the homeless right now? Where are they in tents? I want to know where they're at. Asheville.
Yeah.
You people have not driven around Asheville, because if you had, you'd see them.
Yeah.
Go west of Swannanoa. They're all over. They are pitching tents.
Yeah.
But most of those folks were unhoused before the storm.
Yeah.
And they do have their own stories. They do have their own struggles. We do lose a lot of people that we don't even know about. There's also the immigrant communities got hit really hard, especially the Hispanic immigrant communities. Swannanoa had a much larger than average for WNC population of their community for the Hispanic immigrants, and many of them lived in the trailer parks that sat near the river. They got flooded out real bad. You've also got an immigrant community around Spruce Pine, a little Switzerland that we passed through. So there are language barriers.
See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Like the father and the son that I spoke to at the Skyline Village Inn, who, you know, the son was translating for the father. And I also worry about the folks who weren't reported. For one reason or another, it may not have been reported.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to touch back on the deaths that were reevaluated.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Many homes and retirement facilities lost power. many retirement facilities, convalescent centers. And they were without power for a few days. And for people who were living there, I've been through the obituaries in the affected counties. There were many elderly folks who passed in the days after the storm from long-term illnesses. And I do wonder how many of those were caused by the lack of utilities and possibly lack of functioning medical equipment or medicine or care, or caretakers not being able to reach homes, or many different cases where just because of the way that things happen, I'm not even trying to blame anybody.
Right.
There were air rescues at many retirement centers. There were people trying to come in and help any way they could. Unfortunately, I do think that that is some of the deaths that were maybe originally counted and recounted.
Yeah.
Because those people actually passed of a long-term illness, let's say, instead of a tree falling on their home, on their heads. But you asked me, I would count it.
Right. I mean, that would make sense.
And also the traffic deaths since the storm, if they were caused by the conditions of the storm. And that would raise the county, even in Spartanburg County. We did have several who died in Spartanburg County from the storm. And we had several who died even on my work commute because the traffic lights were out and people were running them. This is Valle Crucis, the Valley of the Cross. What's interesting is we just passed through another area called Seven Devils, or we might be about to pass through Seven Devils. It's around here somewhere. And that's actually further south, I think. Well, the Valle Crucis is supposed to have a demon dog around here. But I saw different stories that said it was different churches where this black dog with glowing red eyes hangs out at.
Oh,
He's
wow.
been spotted from time to time. So if anybody spots a demon dog in the comments, please let us know.
Yeah.
Now, let me get to place here.
Is that completely unrelated, but kind of related? Not storm related, but regional related. Is that band still together? Are they still a thing?
Which band?
Valle Crucis.
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't seen or heard anything about them in a minute.
Actually, there's something I want to find here in Valle Crucis, and it is the original Mast General store, which is back open and functioning after taking massive flooding. Tell you what, my friend, I'm going to hand you my phone real quick.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you if you can put in original Mast General store for Google Maps. Are you handling two phones at the same time?
Okay, you said original.
Yeah. Mast, M-A-S-T. Likes to drive 8 hours without, stopping to grab a drink or a snack or even a coffee somewhere. And I like to try to find and hit up, just a local hole-in-the-wall places.
Original Mast what?
Original Mast General store. Driving over power lines.
And what am I putting for the location?
It's going to be here in Valle Crucis, but it might say Sugar Grove.
Sugar Grove. It's a quarter of a mile.
Do I turn here?
I don't know. It's trying to
tell me where to go?
Yeah.
It's here.
Yeah, it's not. It's just doing the little circle.
No?
Try.
Oh, I see annex. Okay.
Is this it?
Are you open? It looks open. Here's open. Heck yeah.
So This is the water line. Yeah, you could actually see the water line in the store inside as well. From where the clerk said it actually broke. You say the water broke through like 3 windows. Man.
It was exciting at the beginning whenever utility trucks would come through, like a whole convoy. You see 4 or 5 of them coming in, and you know they're about to get some good work done. And I was driving in my car, pumping my fist, hollering, going, "Yeah, get him!"
They said so. There's another Mast General that's like home goods and shit like that.
A fifth of a mile from here.
Okay, that's the one. It was. I think it was trying to direct me to.
Yeah, it's the original store. If you want to stop by, all over here. We're coming back again through Valle Crucis. When you see these old farm buildings like this, you never really know exactly how much 100 or 200 years before the storm, and how much happened in the 3 days.
Yeah.
Afterwards. There at the Mast General store, the man was telling us about how the building is over 100 years old, and they put barricades up in advance, to protect against the flooding, but it's still, I think there was a tree that came through the windows, and then the water came in through there. Said that the water flooded 4 feet around the store, showed us inside the store where the watermark was, where it flooded to. It was beautiful in there. I mean, it was, back open looking pretty, and they're keeping it stocked for Christmas.
Yeah, he said it took him about 3 weeks to get it cleaned up to what it is now. And, I mean, it looks good. I mean, you could, looking at the floor and the water lines on the columns and the stairs, you could definitely tell it took a little hit in there, for sure.
And, yeah, they're still lucky, and as they said they've gotten a lot of help from all directions, from locals, from volunteers coming at us, from the government, from everybody.
Yep.
And that was the story he told, was one of support, community, and really coming together. And a lot of us, the Mast General store in some location is dear to our hearts. There's the one in downtown Greenville and the one in Chimney Rock, and there's other stores, I think, all a small chain essentially, but one that's been in the family for over 100 years.
Yeah.
I would rather shop, and I end up shopping every Christmas in Mast General store.
Nice.
Every Christmas I end up at, usually the one in Greenville, so it's really nice to come out here instead. There's so much fewer people, so much less traffic versus Woodruff Road. If anybody here's from Greenville, you know exactly what I'm talking about, I think I would, in fact, rather take 226A again than take Woodruff Road right now. I think.
What the hell is that?
We had that tree down. Now this is debris of some kind. That building looks gutted.
Oh, shit. Oh, okay, so your navigation isn't gonna just stay on. Like your screen is gonna keep.
Oh my lord. It ain't supposed to do that. It's supposed to stay on. Yeah, it's still not loading when I want it to load, but that's okay. When we come out of this holler and we get to 421,
things will make more sense.
I hope so. I hope at least the
Bards
signal
Creek.
is right for a minute. All over the place. A lot of people here in the rural areas of WNC are on well water instead of any kind of city or county water system, and so they end up being responsible for their own water quality and testing. There have been a lot of free water testing kits that have been provided, and I encourage anyone who has not tested your well water yet, please contact your local county health department get a water testing kit, test that well.
Mhm.
There was a woman from Spruce Pine who said she had been in the hospital for weeks because they think that there was bacteria in the water, but the well hadn't been tested yet. So get your wells tested. It is so important. And they say that for any well that had the floodwaters overtop it. But I've even heard some people say that they've tested for some things, even in wells that were not overtopped by floodwaters.
Right.
There could, again, be those chemicals and such that leak into the ground, into the groundwater. So test your wells, test your wells, test your wells. And some areas where they've got the city water, let's say Asheville, there was the headlines that broke when they said it's been more than 50 days and Asheville still does not have clean water, or drinking water, which honestly was expected from the beginning, but the 50-day mark was still, hey guys, remember, we still are here, we still exist.
Yeah.
And right after that, Asheville came out and said, water's good now, it can be drunk, it's safe. Some people poured out the tap and the water was clear, and some people poured out the tap and the water was yellow or brown.
Yeah.
And in some cases, that might even be in the same neighborhood, so it really, it's quite everything from sediment to the pipes to, I don't know. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an expert on this, so I can only, weigh in so much here. But there are concerns. And this, again, is something that varies from city to city, county to county. Do you have clean water or not? Because people who don't are going to need more water. They're going to need shower stations. They're going to need bottled water at the supply hubs. Alright, we're going to be headed up left here towards Mountain City, but we won't make it because 421 is still closed off past the state line. I think that you can sometimes pass through at night, or if you are perhaps local. I'm not 100% sure how that works right now. All I know is that we will not make it all the way up to Mountain City, but we will make it past Tennessee. A little area called Trade, which was hit real hard. And I remember seeing at the beginning, they were calling out for help because they weren't getting